Hello everyone, in this video let's look at how to create your own budget whether you are an international student or international worker in the US. So without wasting any time, let's get into it. When it comes to budgeting, many people think that it's some kind of rocket science, but it is really far from truth. The only thing with budgeting is tracking your money and knowing how much you spend each month, whether it's on your rent, on your groceries, spending out, traveling out with friends, etc. The best thing about a budget is that once you have a framework, it's only about the numbers. Like, numbers can be highly variable and depend on person to person. For example, I might pay a rent of $1,000, but the other person might pay a rent of $2,000. But the process of budgeting is quite the same. Once you know how much you spend in each of the categories, it's a repetitive process that you keep on doing over time, and that's how you build discipline in your life and take control of your own financial life. I recently moved to New York, and in this video I will show how much did I spend in the month of May 2024. Before getting into my expenses for the month of May 2024, first I would like to tell you that it's really important that you start budgeting your money if you don't already, because if you don't, then it's really hard to track where your money goes, and at the end of the month you will see that you don't have any balance in your bank account. And we don't want to get into that rat race where we just live paycheck to paycheck and wait for our next pay to come in. Again, as I mentioned, budgeting is quite easy and shouldn't be a rocket science for you. It's mainly about creating that habit of tracking each dollar that you spend, whether it's on coffee, eating out, traveling, etc. You will face some inner resistance if you are not used to budgeting. You will think that I don't need to micromanage myself and there's no point in tracking on money. But believe me, each dollar counts and it adds up, so it's really necessary. I started out my budgeting when I was just a student back in India. So budgeting is not only for people who are working in their full time. You can start wherever you are, whether you are a student or in any profession, or you have your own business for that matter. So now that you understood the importance of budgeting in your life, let's look at my framework and how much expenses did I incur in the month of May. The first component in my budget is rent. Rent will be a major component of everyone's budget because it costs a lot to live, whether you are renting it out or you are buying a home and paying EMIs on that. Usually the rent accounts for around 30 or 50% of your total income, so you want to plan it out carefully. It is highly variable based on your location, if you are sharing your apartments or having your own studio, own bedroom, and so on. But for me, for this month, the rent is 575 per month. I know it's very less in New York, but it's a small room, as you can see in the video. It's a temporary lease and I would be moving to a different apartment in the month of July. My intention was to initially stay at a place where students usually live. So my current roommates are NYU students, and I know that students usually live in a safer area, which is why I came to this place. But as I mentioned, I would be moving out in July. So for the month of May, my rent comes out to be 575. The next component that is related to the rent is the utilities. So in most of the apartments that I know, utilities are not included. Utilities might include anything from electricity, your gas, Wi-Fi, trash, water, etc. Some of these utilities might be included in the rent that you pay, but in all the apartments that I have stayed, I had to pay the utilities separately. I have budgeted $50 for my utilities per month, and typically it's around the same amount every month. So the billing cycle for our utilities is 15th of this month to the 15th of next month, which is why I don't have the entire amount yet. So as of now, I have spent $23.1 on utilities. I don't have the bill from mid-May to the end of May, so I haven't accounted for that, but $50 on an average per month is a good range for you to consider. The third component in my budget is groceries. I prefer cooking at home, and I suggest all my friends as well to try cooking at home as much as possible, because first, it's very economical, and second is very healthy. Like, if you eat out every day, it will be very oily and it might have an impact on your health. So it's better to cook at home. Try to learn from your parents on how to cook a variety of dishes, and it would be fun cooking. You spend some good time, learn some new skills in cooking, and especially we are out of our home country, so we don't want to starve. We want to stay healthy, stay fit, so it's really important you cook at home as much as possible. My grocery list usually includes tomatoes, onions, and fruits such as bananas and apples. and also other grocery items such as rotis, rice, vegetables such as mixed veg, and yogurt, chocolates for that matter, etc. So I have a budget of $200 per month for groceries, and for the month of May, I have spent $210.01 on groceries. I know that I'm a bit over budget than planned, but as I mentioned, budgeting is mainly about tracking your money. So you don't have to be hard on yourself if you go over budget, but it's an iterative process where you know that, for example, you spent 200 this month on groceries and 300 in the next month. So you know that on an average, 250 would be a good range for you. So it depends on individual to individual, but I think that 200 should be a good enough range, including all your groceries and considering that you cook at home 3 or 4 times a week. The fourth component in my budget is traveling. This is my personal favorite because I don't want to sit at home and do nothing. I want to explore new places, especially in the US. There are a lot of tourist attractions. You can meet a lot of people, hang out with friends, and so on. You don't want to save all of your money for your retirement, but at the same time, you should keep a track of your money. So you want to have a good balance between this. For the month of May, I didn't travel anywhere outside New York, so it was mostly exploring New York, whether it's going to Brooklyn Bridge at 5 a.m. with my roommates, going to a shoreline near Sunset Park. And for the Memorial Day weekend, we also rented a car and went to New Jersey where we had a fun outing. So for traveling, I have budgeted $300 per month. This includes all the costs such as if I want to travel out by flights, take an Uber, or travel by public transportation, especially in New York. You know that you will spend quite a few dollars on subway tickets. So as I mentioned, I didn't travel outside New York in the month of May, which is why my total expenses compared to the budget is quite low, which is $105.89. So that's like an achievement for me. I feel good that I am under budget in some of the categories. It gives me a sense of accomplishment that I'm tracking my money and following a good discipline in my life, which will help me in the long run. The next component in my budget is eating out. This is the most favorite category for most of the people. People like to eat out, and I understand that, especially in USA or New York, there are a lot of cuisines to try. So it's really easy to go over your budget and not tracking your money. But believe me, if you don't track your money, especially when it comes to eating out, you will really overspend your money and go broke in a matter of months. But at the same time, I also sometimes feel like eating out because cooking at home might get boring or tedious after a point. So once a week is fine if you want to eat out. For the month of May, I also ate out quite a few times, whether it's in Mexican cuisine. We have a Mexican restaurant near our apartment, so we went there. Also, I tried a Italian cuisine with one of my friends. He suggested one of the places to go to in New York, and we had a new dish. And also, I had ice creams a couple of times in the month of May because the summer has just started and it's really hot out here, so you will always crave ice cream once in a while. I have budgeted $150 per month, which is a good amount for me. It might be more or less for you, so it's important that you start tracking your money, know how much you're spending eating out, and that's how you will know that what is a good range for you. So for the month of May, my total spending was $163.66. So I'm a bit over budget in that, but I never regret it because I tried new cuisines. As I mentioned, I tried Mexican cuisine, Italian cuisine, as well as Thai cuisine with my friends. The last component in my budget is miscellaneous expenses. So mostly we have covered all the expenses, whether it's rent, groceries, traveling, eating out, and so on. The last category includes all the other expenses which can't be categorized in any of the categories that I mentioned above. So this might include, say, for example, you have some medical emergency or you go out for having some fun. So, for example, in the month of May, for the Memorial Weekend, we rented a car, as I mentioned, and went out for a outing where we did bowling, went to a escape room. So that expenses comes under miscellaneous expenses for me. I have budgeted around $500. I know that you won't spend $500 on miscellaneous expenses, but you never know if you have some emergency. It's better to have a buffer amount in your budget. So that's why I have $500 accounted for miscellaneous expenses. And for the month of May, I spent $189.3, which is way under budget, and it makes me feel good, honestly. So the miscellaneous expenses includes bowling that we went to, an escape room, as I mentioned. Also, we bought a portable stove for our apartment because we have a terrace, and we went to the terrace, took the stove, cooked Maggie, and had a fun night. So an important thing here is this is the categories that I think are sufficient to cover my expenses, but you might have some other categories that you think needs to be categorized so that you know how much you are spending in that category, so you can tweak and twist your budget according to your spending. But this is how I budget my money. Comment down if you need my Excel sheet that I use for budgeting. This might help you get started with tracking your money. Just to sum it up, the total amount that I have budgeted for spending is $1785, and the total amount that I spent comes out to be $1267. So I'm under budget by around 400 or $500. This feels like a personal success for me, staying under budget, staying on top of my finances, and knowing where I'm spending my money. And please note that sometimes you might go over budget, so don't be harsh on yourself. As I mentioned, it's an iterative process, and you will only come to know when you start tracking your money, whether it's spending 1500 per month, 2000 per month. The amount doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is consistency and staying disciplined when it comes to budgeting. Comment down what you think about my budget. If you have any suggestions for me or need any help from me, like and subscribe my channel if you find my content useful. Thank you again for watching this video. Until next time.